Hello, hello, and good evening. Good to be with you all once again tonight. I just realized I forgot to bring my phone in here and turn it off, so if you hear a phone going off in the background, it's mine. It's like over in the kitchen somewhere. Anyway, I hope y'all are doing awesome tonight. I am going to go ahead and throw this up here right now while we're kind of getting situated here. And this is our question of the day. If you could turn a movie into a themed land at a theme park, what would it be? If you could turn a movie into a theme land at a theme park, what would it be? And a follow-up to that is this. What attraction and or food item would you like to see there? So, again, if you could turn a movie into a theme land at a theme park, or what would it be? Now, somebody else on the live feed earlier, I'm going to mention this, commented that basically all the new theme lands that are coming to theme parks are all IP related, right? They're all movie or TV based or something like that. So if you have original ideas, shoot, drop them in there. Let's hear it. Cool. So looks like we're doing okay tonight. Let me check the YouTube feed because if you don't know, we are actually on YouTube now, which is awesome. Looks like we are rocking and rolling. Look, it's myself. I can hear myself talking. Perfect. Cool. Awesome. Sweet stuff. Thank y'all so much for joining tonight and hopping on. And I would love to hear from some of you this evening. It looks like some of you are already. Hey, Jonathan Clark. Nice to see you, my friend. Hope you're doing well, sir. So let's go ahead and get started, shall we? Tonight, this is Travel Tips Tuesday, and it is May the 18th, 2021. Tonight's focus, our conversation is going to be all about Universal Orlando, specifically this part of the Universal Trip Report. I'm going to kind of split it up into little bite-sized pieces for you. The Universal Trip Report tonight is just all about getting there and getting started. We're going to be focusing more on the hotel experience itself. And again, our question of the day that we mentioned is kind of twofold, two different parts to it. If you could turn a movie into a themed land at a theme park, what would it be? And part number two is what attraction and or food item or experience would you like to include? So would love to hear from you about that. If you have any thoughts, any questions, any recommendations, armchair Imagineering, let's go. Yes, we're talking about Universal. They don't have Imagineers. They have former Imagineers that work for them. Actually, fun fact, the gentleman, the former Imagineer that we had on the show back in November to celebrate episode 100, Mr. Craig McNair Wilson, who is one of the folks involved in the design concept process of the Hollywood Tower Hotel, a.k.a. the Tower of Terror. He actually did an initial concept drawing for Seuss Landing over at Universal, so, there's our tie-in for tonight for this. But for some of you at home, you've got some ideas, you think of them, you're like, hey, Disney should do this, Universal should do this. Specifically Universal, what should they do? Give me some ideas. Let's talk about them. Some of you have already had some great ideas in the feed earlier, and we'll come back to some of those here in just a bit. But first and foremost, let's go ahead and get into some very huge important news. So if you didn't see my kind of real last minute Facebook Live we did a few days ago, I actually went live to talk about, Universal decided to relax their mask policy, and I went online. I found the changed verbiage officially from them. I kind of read through that and sort of, interpreted it as literally as I could. I actually read the majority of it off verbatim, and just kind of talking about that. What that means is, as we were getting started, I get a text message from one of my other Travel Nation buddies that said, hey, by the way, Disney is relaxing their rule too. So Universal went first. A few hours later, Disney is like, hey, we're going to do the same thing. So right now, basically what that means for you, if you were traveling basically a few days ago, kind of forward for the foreseeable future, know that facial coverings, masks, within the stated guidelines, they have to have ear loops, they have to be, this kind of thing. So here's like a Universal mask that I have. It's double layer fabric, really comfortable, ear loops, fits around your nose and your chin and all that. Everybody's familiar with all that by now. You still have to wear those basically from the moment you get in a line queue. If you're inside, you have to have it on, but even if the queue is outside, you have to have the mask on. That's kind of the official rule and how most people are interpreting it and how it should be enforced and how it is being enforced for the most part. Now, some of you may be aware that some attraction lines, queues, especially at Disney, in some cases at Universal as well, or especially if you go into like Diagon Alley, where in the Wizarding World of Harry Potter, where kind of people are really close together. Lines wrap around the sides of the buildings and whatnot. Mask and facial coverings likely will be required there. I say likely just because I'm not there personally now, but based on how we read it, you should be. If you're not inside actively eating or drinking, you should have it on. So if you're inside a restaurant and you're in line for your food, you likely need to have that on. So just check for the team members. They will direct you and let you know kind of on what's expected at that particular attraction or store or whatever the case is. If you're shopping inside, facial covering still stays on. But if you're walking around outside, just kind of hanging out, doing your thing, you want to grab some maskless, photos, do it. They're not required outdoors, which is awesome. So that's great. It's a real big step kind of moving forward. It kind of shows that we are sort of on the tail end of what we've been going through. And I imagine there may be some more challenges in the future. We don't know what's going to happen, but this is a big step. More and more people are being called back to work in the Florida theme park industry, and even in California as well. And basically what that means is this. It means more people are coming back to work. It means life is returning to normal. It means, the livelihood that many people have not had for, 13 months or so, 14, 15 months in some cases, is not there. And it's not just the people that work in the parks. I was actually talking to somebody about this, I think maybe yesterday. It's the infrastructure that supports this industry, right? It's the supply chains that fuels the dining experiences, the food, all the different things that takes to kind of keep up with even the ride infrastructure running at a higher, more intense rate, because a lot of these attractions have kind of been run just sort of in maintenance mode while the parks were closed for a while, and even while they're in sort of lower capacities. But there are all sorts of things that take place to kind of keep the parks up and going. It's about the mom and pop shops, the smaller hotels that house guests in the area. It's about the convention industry that brings in a lot of money to these areas. So we forget that it's not just about people going and hanging out and having fun and expendable income, blah blah blah, whatever. I mean, people live and exist around these areas, and some of them, the situations are different for everybody, right? But these areas have had a massive impact. And one thing that I noticed that is a huge sign that things are getting back to normal in the Central Florida theme park area is traffic is much heavier. Was much heavier last week than it was back in January. So that's a big sign that things are rocking and rolling and moving forward. So that's pretty huge, exciting. We're hopefully, like I was saying, on the tail end of this and progressing forward and moving actively into the future. So good times are ahead indeed. Some other general travel news. So big news for me personally, for those of you that have been watching this show for the past several months, since January 1 or so, the 40 by 40 contest drawing is this Saturday. So if you have booked a trip with me or a reservation, if it's tickets only, if it's a package, if it's multiple reservations, those kinds of things, each one of those qualifies for an entry into a drawing for a $50 gift card that I will be doing this Saturday on my 40th birthday. So basically the challenge initially was to book 40 trips by the time I turned 40 years old. We've well surpassed that mark. And we will be doing that drawing for that gift card this Saturday, and I'll be posting the time later on. You'll see that drawing, that notice. So look for it. And this is a great time to tell you, if you have not subscribed to our channel on YouTube, please do that. The link is the little bit.ly link. If you scroll down to the bottom of the show notes, you'll see that in there. If you're watching on Facebook, on my personal page, or on the Travel Tips Tuesday page, please subscribe. If we get to 100 subscribers, we get a really fun custom URL that we can drop in there, and we'll have a little bit more visibility. So we'd love to build up our YouTube presence a little bit more. Also, here's our very practical travel tip for the day. So this is huge for anyone. If you've already got travel plans, especially international travel plans, or if you're thinking about international travel plans to an all-inclusive or cruise lines, by the way, it looks like there's some very heavy speculation that cruising out of U.S. ports will begin in some sort of limited capacity in July. Again, those are still in a conversational stage, but with CDC and various governmental authorities and whatnot, there have not been any firm announcements that yes, this is happening from U.S. ports starting on this date with this cruise line and this ship. We do see cruise lines, returning their ships to some of their home U.S. ports, again, in a limited capacity. But, this is part of the slow ramp up. It's not just, flipping a switch and then overnight, all of a sudden, everybody's cruising again. But I've gotten several people that have asked me about cruises lately. Of course, the Disney Wish bookings have started to open up this week for the Castaway Club members. Yeah. We're rocking and rolling and moving forward for sure. So, big tip, though, getting to it, is this. If you plan on any sort of international travel, be it cruising, all-inclusives, other sorts of international travel this summer or fall, please, please, please check your passports. Please check your passports, because passport renewal and application times, even with the standard times without paying the expedited fee, or around 6 to 10 weeks. There's a situation when I had some clients that were traveling in March, earlier this month, in the very beginning of this month, that had applied for their passports, I think 2 or maybe 3 months ago, and they had not received theirs. Well, I was able to work with them to give them kind of some tips that I usually share with clients that sort of run into a jam in this process, to kind of help expedite their passports, because they had received some of them, had not received all of them for their family. So passports are backlogged right now. Check your passport expiration dates as well. If you're like, I've got one, I know it's not expired. Passports, this is just the general rule of thumb that will make life a lot easier for everybody traveling. Passports need to have an expiration date more than 6 months from the date you get back from your trip. Again, passports need to have an expiration date more than 6 months, from when you get back. And that's just kind of a rule of thumb. It kind of, it lowers the possibility of red flags going, you getting interrogated when you go through customs and immigration. And there are some countries that actually won't let you travel specifically into their country if you have a passport that's that way. So please go check them, take a look at them. If they're in their safe deposit box, if they're in your fire safe box, if you don't know where they are, go look for them. They're great to have. They're good for 10 years. You can use them for job applications, official IDs for flying, and yada, yada, yada. So anyway, check on your passports. All right, so let's get into our conversation here in just a second. I want to go ahead and check on our question of the day. As a reminder, our question of the day is, if you could, kind of 2 questions, I'm sort of cheating a little. If you could turn a movie into a themed land at a theme park, what would it be, and what attraction and or food item would you like to see there? So if you could turn a movie into a themed land at a theme park, what would it be, and what attraction and or food item would you like to see there? So let's take a look at some of the comments that folks are dropping in the chat. So Jim Wilderman is hopping on tonight. So definitely, so yeah, my buddy Jonathan Clark says hey, and Jen Wilderman's celebrating the new mask policy, which is awesome. Let's go back to the news feed from Facebook earlier just to kind of see what some folks are saying about this question of the day here. All right, Laura says, How to Train Your Dragon area design. Never actually seen How to Train Your Dragon. Confession. I definitely need to see it. It's a great film from what I hear, but that could be a great opportunity for a dragon flight simulator. That would actually be pretty cool. Or an area to adopt a dragon, like a Build-A-Bear sort of thing. Jen says Tangled, especially so Tangled, the animated series that was on Disney Channel, I believe, for a little while. It's also on Disney Plus. It's great show, great story arcs and everything. Awesome. So she says, especially from season 3, when they ride the waterlogged flumes to save Eugene, his dad, the horses, and the Stabbington brothers, Rapunzel and Pascal are awesome. So yeah, that is a really good show, a good episode specifically for sure. Mike says Dunder Mifflin Land with pretzel day every day. Nice, sweet Office reference for you. Scott McKay says Sugar Rush Racetrack World from Wreck-It Ralph. That would be a lot of fun for sure. My buddy Terry Weaver says Doors from Monsters Inc. with a sushi restaurant. That would be actually really neat as well. So there are a lot of themed lands. Here we go. So my friend David Dollar, who's also a travel agent as well, with a different agency. He lives about an hour and a half south of me in Birmingham. We're kind of buddies, and he's also part of the Main Street Electrical podcast. So if you're looking for another, they don't do their show live. It's recorded pretty much every week, but they do a really good job reporting the facts. It's a lot of fun, very entertaining. They have some great guests on, but the Main Street Electrical podcast is a great one. David's one of the co-hosts of it. He says, retheme dinosaur into the good dinosaur and turn a not terrible, though not great film into a not terrible but pretty good ride. So, a lot of great ideas here. Top Gun, a lot of other Star Wars themed things, Wakanda, Wizard of Oz, Indiana Jones, more Indiana Jones attractions, Ghostbusters, Lord of the Rings, lots of shout outs for Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit, actually. So that's some pretty cool ideas, y'all. Y'all are super creative, and love that. Love it, love it, love it. All right, so let's talk about Universal. So we stayed at, I'm going to grab this real quick. This is my handy dandy lanyard that we picked up. So lanyards are if you're traveling Universal, you hadn't been there before, and I have some clients that I'm working with right now that are traveling to Universal Orlando Resort here in a few weeks for the first time. These are a number one tip. So you can buy these in the hotel. You can buy them ahead of time. You can find them a number of different ways. I like these specific ones because they have kind of a little buckle thing around your neck. It's super comfortable. It's a wide band, so it's not like cutting into your neck like those ones made out of like that paracord kind of material. It's got a pouch for kind of your ticket, whatever you want to put in there, ID that's clear. So, it's got a little zipper thing on it. This particular one is Harry Potter themed, which is kind of cool. So one of the things you'll do when you go to your hotel is you'll get your room key. One of the things that's different about Universal Resorts hotels versus Disney is that your room key is your room key. It doesn't serve also as your park ticket. Your park ticket is actually separate. I've got mine here kind of still flipped around to the back. And I have the barcodes facing out for a number of reasons. So you can use this for a couple of different things around the resort, but your park tickets are used obviously to get into the parks. They're also used to open lockers that are mandatory at several of the attractions where you have to take everything out. Sometimes even your cell phones are not allowed in certain line queues. Once you pass the lockers, they have to be put in. Some they are. I mean, you can't take videos on attractions at Universal attractions. That's one of the things that's a bit different than Disney. So I have my barcode for my ticket flipped around, so I can just easily scan, open the locker, you pop your stuff in. It doesn't cost anything to use the lockers while you're on the ride. You can't just drop your stuff in there and then leave and come back at the end of the day. That's not what those lockers are for. There are those lockers available at the front of the parks, like you see at a lot of theme parks. Also at Volcano Bay, the water park. We're going to spend an episode probably talking specifically about Volcano Bay. There are lockers available there as well. So lanyard, easy travel tip here with a clear pouch on it. Super easy thing and pretty necessary, I think, to have when you go to Universal. You'll see most people wearing them, and it just makes it a little bit easier than the kind of fumbling with your wallet and trying to figure out, where you're putting your tickets, and if you've got, 47 kids with you or whatever it is, it just makes life a little bit easier. So getting to the hotel specifically, though, I'm going to kind of backtrack a second. Universal does have a shuttle service that's available that takes you round trip from Universal Orlando Airport and to whichever hotel you're staying at and back. It is not complimentary. It is called the Superstar Shuttle, and I believe it's run by Mears, if I'm not mistaken, that handles a lot of the busing to different theme parks in the area. Mears is a great company. They provide pretty solid service. They provide the kind of resort to park transportation in the Universal Orlando Resort area. We did not use the Superstar Shuttle from the airport to the hotel. We opted to use Uber instead, which is super easy. There's a designated Uber pickup area at the airport. Just kind of follow the signage to the rideshare pickup area. Again, super easy. It was not cheap, all right? It was not cheap. It was around 50-ish or so bucks. But if you take into account, for those shuttles, a lot of times you're paying for multiple people. If you're taking, I would say, 2 or more, the Uber is probably pretty good ride. Pretty good. Well, it was a good ride for us, but a pretty easy thing to do. We were traveling with my daughter, who is 8 years old, and she still requires kind of a booster seat. And she didn't have a true booster seat per se, but if you do have young children that still require a booster seat specifically, and they're kind of pushing the edge, they're maybe taller, I would recommend these kind of portable booster seats are compact called MyFolds. If you MIFOLD, if you Google that, search on Amazon or whatever, Target, Walmart, you can find them. But basically, they're the size of a big pocketbook. So we used to have one about that that wide or so. They have these little things that stick out to the side that sort of hold the seatbelt down. They also have another real sturdy sort of belt type thing with a clip on it that clips onto the seatbelt to keep the seatbelt from kind of going into the passenger's neck, and they're real easily packed. So like I threw it in the backpack in the suitcase whenever we had to take it over, got it out, whether we were going to Disney Springs, which we did, or whether we were going to the hotel or back to the airport, we were able to use it pretty easily. So big fan of that. Real easy, great Uber driver, great experience there, and didn't have to wait long either for a ride either way. Universal's Endless Summer Dockside Inn and Suites. That is where we stay. The Universal Endless Summer Dockside Inn and Suites. If you didn't catch the live that I did last week, just real briefly, we will be posting that later along with my kind of brief Facebook Live we did with the new mask policies updates. We'll be posting that in conjunction with this episode later on. So we stayed at the Universal Endless Summer Dockside Inn and Suites. It's kind of Universal's version of a value experience as far as a hotel goes. It was a great hotel. We had a comfortable stay. The beds were comfortable. The bathroom was clean. One of the things that was unique about that particular bathroom is that it did not have a tub. It was just a standing shower only. They didn't have like pre-pumped, shampoo, conditioner, and body wash kind of like bolted to the wall like you see in a lot of the Disney resorts now. They actually still had them in the bottles. The pricing for these resorts is very comparable to what you would see at some of the value resorts at Disney. Now, they tend to be a little bit on the cheaper side, but kind of depending on the season, they can be pretty comparable. Would I stay there again? I'll give you my kind of mini short review up front if you're about ready to tune out. Yes, I would. But there are some pros and cons that are out there. I'm going to talk about the cons first. So the cons first. So again, this is more of an observation, I would say, than a con, but it's a basic hotel, right? So with different hotel levels, you're going to have different types of amenities that you're used to, as far as dining and other amenities at the hotel, like, I don't know, room service and like, do they have spas and those kids clubs? There's a number of different things, like different types of hotel activities and stuff like that. So at this particular hotel, category, it's a pretty basic experience. I will also say that this is the newest hotel category for the Universal Orlando Resort. Sorry, I'm stumbling over myself. I need to slow down. I can't remember the exact date that it opened, but it's not been open very long. I believe it opened shortly before the pandemic hit. And again, great experience so far. Beautiful, very well done. But some of the things that I think could use a little bit of improvement are the following. So it has a small food court. Okay, so it has a small food court for ordering, and it gets pretty congested during busy times. And you're probably like, well, most restaurants get congested during busy times. And yes, you're right, it does. But the way this particular food court area is called Pier 8 at the Dockside, so there's the theme, right? Continuing with the theming. Dockside Inn and Suites. Pier 8, the dining area, or actually the ordering area, so it kind of had little areas where you walk up and there's a team member behind there that would serve you your item in a disposable container of some sort, and then you would proceed to the cash register and then check out and go. But the way they have it set up is there's this sort of like center area where they had iced things like they're kept cool, like fresh items, like freshly squeezed juices of different types, freshly cut fruit, parfait, so your yogurt, granola, berries, and stuff. They had a few other things around there, that area as well. It's kind of right in the middle, and then around that, sort of in a U shape, was sort of baked goods, so like croissants and different things. They also have Krispy Kreme donuts, which is a con, but I mean, not a con, it's a pro. We'll get to that in a minute. And they have different sandwiches, hot and cold sandwiches of different types as well. They've got, of course, pizzas and real quick, easy burgers and chicken fingers sort of things for your lunch and dinner items. Great breakfast items as well. That are pretty tasty. And then they have sort of a fridge area with, your different drinks, milks and waters and juices and whatnot. And then they have this sort of little nook, and I really like this. So even though we're talking about cons right now, I really like this. They have this little sort of nook area specifically for like allergy-friendly food items. Sometimes if you're traveling with allergies, it can be hard to find those things. But I think more and more areas, especially like this, that draw in a lot of families and people from all over, are trying to be more intentional about serving guests with allergies. I'm one. I have allergies, so I get it. Kids that do, I know other people that do. So I thought that was pretty cool. Like I enjoyed that. It's kind of congested as that place could get during peak times, and it could be confusing on where to stand. Like if you were waiting on something they ran out of, like for example, I went in and I had a Cuban sandwich the first night that we got there. It was pretty late, just wanted a Cuban sandwich, pretty basic Cuban sandwich, nothing special about it. Wasn't horrible. It was also freshly made, hadn't been sitting under the warming light forever, so that was a plus. But while I was waiting for that to be made, because normally they just have them there ready, they pull them out of a warmer, stick them on your little disposable food tray or whatever, and then give them to you. Had to wait for it for a while. It was kind of confusing on where I should stand, and there were other people that were wondering, like, do I need to wait here? Are you in line? So there wasn't really a way to queue up. People were just kind of like trying to awkwardly social distance from each other and figure out where they should go. And I just think that's something that could be remedied either with a little bit more clear direction from another team member or implement mobile ordering. So that's one thing that Disney has done very well at their resorts, is they've implemented mobile ordering at most of their quick service food locations at the resort hotels. So super easy to do that. So the other thing, the last con that I will get to is this at the Universal Dockside Inn and Suites, is that there are only 4 elevators for one tower. 4 elevators for one tower. And we stayed on the 7th floor, and we were not all the way up. Forget how many floors there are, but there are several. There's lots of rooms in both of these main 2 towers that were there. So there were basically 2 pretty much mirrored sides of each other of this resort area. And there's only 4 elevators per one tower. Often there would be lines kind of getting into them, and there would be a wait. We never waited probably more than, 10 minutes. Guests were supposed to socially distance in the elevators, though that policy I feel like wasn't enforced 100%. So, that is what it is. But again, we felt safe. We had a good time and enjoyed our stay there. So let's talk about the pros. That's enough kind of down talk about the cons. But let's talk about what was great. The big one I'm going to talk about up front is this. All right. Number one big one is it's very close to the parks. Very close to the parks. Massive fan of the proximity of this. As far as one of the reasons why you go stay at a deluxe resort at Disney a lot of times is because of how close it is to the parks, right? That's part of the reason why you go and stay there, so you can be a little closer. You can walk to them. Now, you couldn't walk from the Universal Endless Summer area, but you could hop on a bus, and those buses were like cranking out. There was always one there. There was never more than a 5-minute gap between, I'm not exaggerating this, there's never more than a 5-minute gap between a bus being in front of you, picking you up to take you to the parks, whether it was the water park or whether it was the City Walk area where you go to Islands of Adventure or Universal Studios Florida. So that was one of the things I thought they did extremely well. Not a lot of wait times through buses, very close. So like if you were like hot, you want to go back to the resort at the end of the day, you could easily head back towards the exits of the park, go through City Walk, and then go get in your bus. And it was great. So I love that. I love that. It was super convenient. We did that a couple of times. We went to the parks, just hit it hard all day. We'll talk about our park days here over the next week or two. And we were able to go back, and especially when it got hot, because yes, it got hot. It is Florida. There were really no clouds during the day except for, I think, day 2. Tuesday of last week, there were a little bit of clouds that popped up later on in the afternoon when we were at Volcano Bay, which was helpful. But when we were in the 2 main parks, Islands of Adventure and Universal Studios Florida, the sun was out, y'all. It was out. It was shining, and it was hot, and it was humid. And it was great to be inside when we were inside. And we had to go back and kind of get re-energized and cleaned up. And we came back for a little bit of playtime at night. So that was nice. The team members are very friendly. They were trained well. We had a great experience. Anytime we needed something, they were very kind. They were very professional. Had one little issue with the resort refillable mug that we had. So one of the things I like, and this is also on my list, and I was going to get it, I don't have it with me, is at Disney, if you get one of their resort refillable mugs, it's for the length of stay. However, Universal, you can buy one and select how many days you want to use it. And they put it on this little thing, scan it, and put something in, and then sort of authorize it for however many days you're going to have it. We had one little issue where ours expired before it should have. So we were on our way out. We just wanted something to drink real quick and fill it up kind of on the go. As we were leaving, there was an issue. Took it to the cast member, said, hey, we bought this for a couple of days. We're on our way out. She's like, okay, I'll go ahead and add another day to it so you can just go ahead and get what you need. And boom, we're good. So yes, we paid for it. There's a small issue there, but she didn't bat an eye and took care of us. We had one other issue, two other things that happened when we were at Ollivanders in the park, which I will share when we talk about Ollivanders and getting my wand, which is right here behind me. Actually, no, that's the bag. This is the wand itself. We'll talk more about that in this little map thing here next time around. So, because some people are curious, you see people going to the Wizarding World of Harry Potter, hanging out and playing with those things. So, we'll talk a lot about that. But there's another situation where we were. I'd been given some very specific instructions on when to show up at a restaurant that we were dining at, the Chocolate Toothsome Emporium, which is a pretty great restaurant, great food, great service, great review all around there. And we got there, and they were like, we were not taking any more walk-ups. And we had been instructed by a team member earlier to come back and that we could be seated in a certain area, even though we didn't have a reservation. And, they took care of us. They stood up to their word, so they kept to it, even though they had stopped taking walk-ups. So that was pretty great. We had a great experience. Every time we had a question with a team member, we were kind. We respected the facial covering rules, and it was a great trip. It really was. Some of the other things I really like about the Universal Endless Summer Dockside Inn and Suites specifically are the two large main pools. They had a lot of chairs. You could go down there, get your towels by the pool, so you didn't have to take your hotel towels down from your room. You can get a towel for your lounge chair and just kind of hang out. The pools were big and wide, so people weren't all climbing on top of each other and that kind of thing. I mean, of course, there's some kids kind of wrestling around or whatever, doing what kids do, but we spaced out and had a good time. There are two big pools that are like this, kind of inside they're sort of inside the confines of the tower. They're not indoors, but sort of the towers sort of do an open V. The towers are sort of in that area. So that was pretty great. Some other folks have been commenting. We're going to pause real quickly and see who's been commenting. So Jen says, when traffic is a good thing, she's talking about things returning to normal. So yeah, absolutely. I'll agree with you. My friend Charles Quall says, Elizabeth says a Downton Abbey theme park would be fun. That would be pretty fun. Oh, and a Mighty Ducks themed land. We could learn how to play hockey with Bombay as well as you play against Iceland. That would be so epic. By the way, if you're not watching the Mighty Ducks show on Disney Plus, you are definitely missing out. For anyone that is listening, check it out. It's really good. It's really, really good. So yeah, Krispy Kreme, Yum Such a Good Donut. Do they give free samples with? No, unfortunately they don't give free samples out there. So, thank y'all for chiming in tonight. A lot of great conversation going on. So again, a Universal at the hotel at the Universal's Endless Summer Dockside Inn and Suites. There are two large main pools with ample chairs and towels. Real fun area just to kick back and relax. The refillable mugs, again, I mentioned were nice. Mentioned the Krispy Kreme donuts that are in the lobby. Two of my favorite things. So, as much as I kind of gave the layout of the food court area a hard time, they had Krispy Kreme donuts, and then outside in the lobby, there's a Starbucks. So for all of you people that love your coffee, you love your Starbucks coffees, you can definitely grab that on the go. The Starbucks are in the hotels. They're also, some available in City Walk as well as you're walking to the park. You can grab that. on the go, and it's a great refresher. Great pick me up in the morning. So I actually ran into some friends from Travelmation that were also down there. One in particular, my friend Austin, who's one of the VPs with Travelmation. He's also one of the co-hosts of the Travelmation podcast. Shout out to Austin. It was good to hang out with him and his family for a bit, one of our days there, and we were thankful for that time that my daughter and I got to hang out with them for a bit. So again, a lot of great things about this hotel, and again, up front, I said before we kind of dove into this review that would I stay there again? Yes, I would. I would bring my family there. We had a poolside view room, a poolside standard view room. So it had a standard room, nothing special, a couple of beds and real basic amenities in the room itself. There was a fridge. I often get that question. So there are mini fridges in all the rooms. And this room overlooked the pool, so it was real pretty. We could actually look out our room and see Hogwarts Castle out in the distance, which was kind of neat too. So there are also suites there as well. If you have a larger family like we do, you could fit everybody, in one room. Like if you have a family of 6, there are accommodations that would fit you all in one place. So that's pretty helpful as well. So if y'all have any questions about this resort or our experience specifically at the resort hotel, please let me know. I can't wait to share with you all a little bit more about our experience. Going to the Universal Orlando Resort was a lot of fun. We spent a lot of time talking about Disney on this show because it's near and dear to my heart, as you all know. But we're going to be talking more about Universal too. So very excited to share with you all more, and can't wait to get in to it more. So if you do have any specific questions about Universal Orlando, please send them my way. Drop me a comment on Facebook, on YouTube, on wherever, whenever. So if you have my email address, text me, whatever. Just let me know. Say, hey, what do you think about this? Could you answer this on your show? And I would love to do that. So last but not least, as a reminder, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can go to YouTube and search Travel Tips Tuesday. You'll see the Travel Tips Tuesday logo. That is right up there, if you'll see that on the screen if you're watching live right now. So thank you all so much for tuning in. This has been a lot of fun to chat with you all tonight, and I can't wait to chat with you again next week a little bit more about the Universal Orlando Resort, and then we'll get back to some Disney stuff for a bit. So excited to see where the next few weeks go. So thank you all so much for tuning in. Have a magical evening, and we will see you again real soon. Bye-bye.